In Lesson 7.3, we're going to talk about the last method for solving a system of equations, the elimination method. This is the one that we tend to use the most. Elimination and substitution we use more than graphing, but elimination probably comes up the most. And you're going to use this a lot in Algebra 2, so this is a very important skill to understand. The most important thing about elimination is that your equations need to be in standard form. Remember that? That's kind of why we covered it, because it makes this method of solving systems a whole lot easier. So now in this first example, we were kind of nice, and these two equations are already in standard form. But the trick to the elimination method, and I gave you a harder example here, you need to get either variable to have matching coefficients and opposite signs, because we're trying to eliminate either x or y. Now, in the easier problems, the numbers will already match. So if the numbers already match, but they have the same sign, just multiply an entire equation by -1 so that you want the opposite signs. But I gave you an example here where nothing matches. Right? The x's, one is a 2, one is a 5, and the y's, one is a 3, one is a 7. So everybody's got different coefficients. So you just pick which one you want to make match. I'll choose to make my x's match, just because they come first. There's no real reason for it. So what I'm going to do is, what do I have to multiply, or what do 2 and 5 both go into? Well, I can make both of these a 10. If I multiply the top row by 5, I'll distribute to everybody in the row. So that's going to be 10x plus 15y equals 5. Don't forget to multiply the number on the end. A lot of people forget that, and it'll mess up your whole answer. Now let's do the same with the bottom equation. What do I have to multiply 5 by to make it match the other one? I have to multiply it by 2. Now notice my x's have the same signs. I need them to have opposite signs. So I'm actually going to multiply by a -2. I'll show you why in a second. But go ahead and distribute, and you get -10x minus 14y equals -6. And here's why we want our coefficients to have opposite signs. Actually, I'm going to have to scroll down to get to the next step. So go ahead and pause the video and copy all that down before I scroll on to the next part. Okay, so at this point, now we're going to add our equations straight down. So we had 10x plus 15y equals 5, and -10x minus 14y equals -6. Because if I add 10 and -10, look what happens. They canceled, and now x is eliminated. If these were both a positive 10, they wouldn't eliminate, and I'd still have an x, and you want to try to get rid of one of your letters so that you can actually solve the equation. And now 15 and -14 makes 1y, or just y, and 5 and -6 is -1. So this really is just the same as y equals -1. Great. Now, that's only a y. Remember, I need two answers, an x and a y. So now I'm going to plug my answer into either of my original equations and solve for the other variable. So let's use the top equation. What was the top equation? It was 2x plus 3y equals 1. So now I'm going to take this -1 and plug it in for the y. So 2x plus 3 times -1 equals 1. That's a -3. Add 3. 2x equals 4. Divide both sides by 2, and you get x equals 2. Do not forget to write your answer as a point. So you put the x number first, 2, and then comes your y value, -1. And that's it. That's elimination. The trick is they have to be in standard form first, and then you have to try to get your x's or your y's to have the same number but opposite signs so that they'll cancel out. And then you just add straight down and solve what's left. And don't forget to plug your answer into one of the original equations to find your other variable, because you have to give 2 numbers as your answer. And that's 7.3. So here's 2 examples that we can try. the first one, if you notice that the y's already match. So you don't have to multiply both equations if you don't need to. So don't make more work for yourself. These y's already match, and they even have opposite signs. So I'm just going to add straight down. 4x and 2x make 6x. The y's cancel. 16 and 8 is 24. Solve this equation. You get x equals 4. Don't forget, I need to go back and find y. So I'll plug it into the first equation. Instead of 4x, I'm going to say 4 times 4 plus 3y equals 16. Well, 4 times 4 is 16. So if I subtract, I get 3y equals 0. Divide by 3, you get y equals 0. It's okay. You get that sometimes. So write your answer as a point. X comes first, and then the 0. Okay, and the next one is like the example that I gave you in the notes, because the x's and the y's don't match. But I would here, because the x's already have opposite signs, I would eliminate the x's. So if you multiply the top equation by 4 and the bottom equation by 3, you get new equations. 12x, 20y is 24, negative 12x, 6y equals 15. The x's cancel. 26y equals 39. Hey, I know that that's 1.5 because we had those two numbers earlier. And then you plug them in. I'm going to use the second equation because the numbers are smaller. 2 times 1.5 equals 5. 2 times 1.5 is 3. Subtract 3. It's 2. Divide by negative 4. And I get x equals negative 1/2 or 0.5. Since my other one's a decimal, I might as well make that a decimal. So my x is negative 0.5 and my y is 1.5. There we go.